Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us on day 5 of week 2 of ALYFE Connect, our very first virtual-only event brought to you exclusively by ALYFE Group. We apologize for the slight delay and thank you for waiting, although we hope it was worth it because we seem to have had some good news from the PM's office this morning that there is light at the end of this lockdown tunnel and the MCO will gradually be lifted starting next Monday. So I'm sure many of us are looking forward to stepping out into the sunshine again. We've got another wonderful day of talks lined up for you all, and we kick off the day with a very insightful, I'm sure, fitness special. We welcome Zoe Leigh, full-time teacher and full-time competitive athlete, to talk to us about the journey behind being a female stage competitor, a bikini competitor, a nutrition coach, and also giving us a very kind of candid and informative insight into why a woman's journey on this venture is much more special, I could say. Anyway, please help me welcome Zoe. Good morning.
Good morning, and how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. I must say, I've enjoyed. I was just getting used to the lockdown, I suppose, but now the announcement has come out this morning that things are going to start slowly getting back to normal, which is quite good. So yeah, I'm in a Friday. I'm feeling more Friday than usual than I have been for the last 4 weeks. How are you?
Well, I can guarantee nobody will be out clubbing or partying this weekend, that's for sure.
True. Maybe next week.
I'm good, thank you. Had my coffee for this morning, so I'm ready for some Q&A, for some discussion. So yeah, looking forward to getting started.
Excellent. Well, yeah, we can't wait. We know you've got a lot of very, very interesting. I mean, your journey is a fascinating one, I'm sure. And you've traveled a lot with this. Well, it's a full-time passion, I suppose. Like you really own the stage, as it were. Like this is something this is something you do at a very, very high level. And I'm sure our viewers at home will be very interested to hear about just what life as a competitive athlete is like. But I'm curious, though, just before we get into all that, I mean, how things have been for you at home the last few weeks. Like I said, you do compete at a high level, and so and obviously training at home is a bit more restrictive than a gym and so on. So how have you been keeping yourself active and occupied during this time?
It was very, very hard at first. I don't think anybody anticipated how long we were going to be in lockdown for, and the actual implications it would have on everything. So I was very fortunate on the last day the gym was opening. I trained, and then I popped by a decathlon on my way home and picked up some dumbbells, and I messaged my coach and I said, oh, I've just got some gym equipment just in case my gym at the condo is not open. So then I can still train. So I'm so fortunate that I did that. So I actually had some equipment with me, because the next day I went to use the gym at my apartment and everywhere was closed. So it was a big shock to the system. Obviously, I have a coach now, but and he writes my workout programs, and I kind of freaked out because I said to him, what am I going to do? I can't do my usual training. So it's been a lot of adjustments for me personally, physically and mentally. A lot of changes to my workout, a lot of changes to my diet, keeping myself mentally positive as well. I think mental well-being is vital right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And routine as well. So for me, it meant so we came off all my my current program for training, for nutrition, and this phase now is just trying to maintain. It's a maintenance phase, so we just try and maintain and preserve the muscle that we have, so that when we do go back to the gym and whatnot, we haven't lost so much. So I think that'll be everybody's big concern right now in the bodybuilding industry, is losing muscle mass and things like that. So yeah, it's been a lot of home workouts, a lot of creative workouts. I've started doing yoga every day. I've never done yoga before. So for me, this was a chance to rest physically and mentally as well, and to pick up some new things as well. I am an educator, I am a teacher, and I do involving myself in education as well. Like, I love to learn. I love to improve myself all the time. So I'm constantly learning about new things. So I give yoga a go, really enjoying it. A lot of meditation involved and breathing, and that's helped to keep me positive and alongside a routine. So I'm still teaching every day. All my classes have moved online. So
Online.
it's been very, very busy with preparing and conducting all my classes for my students so that they don't miss out as well. It was very important for me during this time that my students don't miss out on anything at all that I wouldn't normally do in the classroom. So luckily, I am quite hands-on, and I involve a lot of technology in my lessons so that I was able to apply the things that we're currently doing online as well. So I would say my students are not so affected with the teaching and whatnot, but definitely in terms of training, my training has changed slightly. More body weight or resistance work. Nutrition is a lot more relaxed. I was probably a bit too relaxed at first, and I think everybody has gained a few pounds during the MCO period.
Right. Well, it's easy when you're like, right now I'm just 3 feet from the kitchen, it's like the temptation is there all day, every day. So I get it. And like, the boredom hunger kicks in a lot sooner than it usually does. And you're just not moving around as much. So you're not even like rushing around commuting can help burn a few extra calories, but now you got to really plan time to be active indoors. But you can definitely get a good workout at home. A lot of people, we've spoken to a lot of fitness personal trainers, fitness instructors and everything over the course of the last 2 weeks on the show. And they've shown us some amazing routines and showed us some amazing tips that a lot of people are using the excuse of the MCOs. Oh, I can't go to the gym. I have no choice but to sit around and do nothing. It's actually, you can, like, body weight can be brutal, and even like yoga. Like how because I've tried a very, very basic, I guess you could say, broga, like beginners yoga for dudes kind of thing, and it's hard. It's hard. I go to the gym, but it's tough. So how have you found that? It must be, especially for someone in your line of competition and body work, if that makes sense. Yoga must be a very interesting one to get to grips with.
Yeah, and I'd never tried it before. And for me, I'm not flexible at all. So my mindset was I was curious to try it. I'd been told about flow yoga, vinyasa before. And I saw a few of my friends posting about it on Instagram. And I did a couple of videos, and I noticed after a few attempts at these videos that I could really notice a difference in terms of flexibility. And I think these kind of things are positive things that we can take forth after the MCO as well, and that will help with training and things like that. So it's been good, but the nutrition side of it has been, I would say, a lot more difficult to tackle during this time.
Yeah, true. Although, is that because is that because you're not able to have prepare like the stuff you want at home compared to what you get outside, or what's the issue with nutrition?
I think for us, when I'm competing, when I'm on prep, I have around 6 meals a day. So we're eating every couple of hours. Like, our metabolisms are fast, and we're constantly eating. So when we go into lockdown, we still have these cravings. We're still hungry. So it's just making sure that what you're eating is the right kinds of foods, because otherwise your body is going to it's going to go into a big shock. And my last comp was in December. So then you usually have a recovery phase of a couple of months before you'd even prepare again. And for you to start a strict diet again so close after a competition, it's very hard mentally as well. So it's the key right now is about balance and just being mindful about what you're eating. And I've tried currently I'm doing intermittent fasting. So I do about 16-8 window. And I find that really helps because I'm able then, I would still be, so I'm tracking my calories. My calories are a bit lower than what I would usually consume because I'm more idle. I'm not active. I'm not walking around. I'm not working. Usually my day starts from 5 a.m. right through till 11 p.m. at night. I'm nonstop. So for me, I'm not used to spending so much time in the house.
Yeah, it's when these four walls are getting very, very, very familiar by now, but we should be able to go out soon. And by the way, to the viewers at home, thank you for sending in the questions so far. Yeah, we will have a Q&A at the end of the session. I know Zoe has a lot of interesting stuff to share with us first, so keep the questions coming in, and we'll get through a selection at the end of them. But keep listening, keep asking. And stay tuned, basically, because I know that you have a lot to share with us today, Zoe, which we're looking forward to. So I guess let's get into it, because it is a very interesting story that I think you have to tell. And so I'm really, really curious to know about about this journey for you up to where you are today. Where did this competitive athleticism, I suppose, start for you? What's the story behind your fitness journey?
I think my fitness journey began, I was always active, even as young as 2 years old. Since I was able to walk, my mum put me in ballet class. I was always active. I was always doing something. And throughout high school in particular, I was always doing sports. I was big into boxing in the UK. So obviously I am from the UK. So I was always active in sports. I was always the type of person to try a new sport, try a new skill. And I loved sports. And I think that's what kept me out of any trouble in school. I was a bit of a nerd in school. So I think it also gave me something to focus on. And I had this misconception that a lot of women have, particularly when I got older and I moved to college and to university, that if women lift weights, then become bulky, they're gonna turn into the Hulk. And so I had this phobia that I didn't want to lift weights because I'm going to turn into a man. I'm going to be big. I'm going to be bulky. And I wish that was the case, because that would make our life a lot easier. So it was always sports related for me.
Well, yes. It sounds like you did quite a few of them. And actually, maybe we'll come back to this at the end. I don't want to interrupt your story, but that is like a misconception that I'm aware of myself, like a myth that many women, especially women are afraid. I'm really generalizing here, but are afraid to lift weights because they think they'll get huge, like Hulk-like arms and whatnot. But I know that the reality of that is, of course, very, very different for reasons we might be able to go into later. But interesting how you were addressing that too early on.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I came to Malaysia first for a holiday in 2011, and then I moved out here shortly afterwards. And at the time in the UK, I just started running a lot and organizing. I organized a half marathon for children with terminal cancer. So I was involved with the media and things like that in the UK before I moved out here. And when I moved out here as well, I was still active in running and long distance, and I did the Putrajaya full marathon. I think it was like 2013, 2013, I think. And it's my first ever full marathon. So very different from training in the UK. Obviously, the UK is cold and miserable all the time. There's a heat factor, the sun.
I think I'd rather do. I wouldn't rather do a marathon in any circumstances, because I just do not like running. But I think I'd rather do one in the UK, because here, like you said, the heat index, the humidity, the conditions, oh my goodness.
I think I found the opposite. I think being here for a substantial amount of time now, when I did the marathon, it was in the evening, so it is substantially cooler. But I find now when I go back to the UK and I try and walk or I try and jog or I try and train, it is so cold that I can't even break a sweat. So yeah, I have that issue. So yeah, I was running. I was training every day, running a lot, and after the marathon, I had some knee injuries, a knee problem from running so much, and I had to have therapy. I was recommended to stop running unless I wanted treatment on my knees. Obviously, we only get one pair of knees, so you have to be very, very careful with them. And my friends suggested I try getting into the gym. I try strengthening the muscles surrounding my knee. So it was around 2000, beginning of 2015, I joined True Fitness. Not sure if you remember True Fitness before everywhere closed down.
Yes,
So,
I do.
So I was a member of True Fitness for a few years, and that's how my journey into the bodybuilding industry kind of started, on my curiosity, because I met a group of friends there and they were all competing, and there was a very good atmosphere, very good vibe. They were really, really nice people. And so I started attending competitions, going to view my friends competing, just witnessing what happens during a competition. And I met the current Mr. Olympia, so Brandon Curry, and his wife, Brandy Lever, and I talked to them, and Brandy Lever, she gave me a lot of advice, and she said, just do it, like just try it. She said, what have you got to lose? So that was one of my biggest inspirations for starting my competition prep. And she's been quite a big part in my journey as well, and she's given me a lot of advice. But at the time, for me, I later found out that I was under eating quite a lot. And so I was I'd say skinny. I was very skinny, and I'd always have definition, but I had no muscle at all, no muscle mass. I had no upper body at all. So I was very skinny. I had no curves. I was very straight up, straight down. So the biggest thing for me was to learn about how I needed to build muscle. So, and I'm talking, I literally had nothing when I started competing. I was working full time. I'm by myself here in the country, so money was a big obstacle for me. So I couldn't afford a coach. So what I used to do is I used to get up early and I'd travel into school because I didn't have the internet at home. And I would sit in front of the computer before my classes start, and I would do my homework every day, researching tips, advice, diets, watching videos. Every piece of information I would soak up like a sponge. So for me, I think that's important to do your research before you go into this kind of thing as well. But I made one vital mistake in this area by listening to everybody. So like when you are competing, people will have their own opinions on what works and what doesn't work, but their opinions are based on what works for them or what doesn't work for them. So they will always try and guide you, and yeah, they might be helping you out. They might think that they're doing something good by helping you, but at the end of the day, no two bodies are the same. So everybody requires a different workout program. Everybody requires a different nutrition program. So I made the mistake of taking advice from all of my friends, which were mainly competitors, which were advising me were mainly men as well. So that was a big thing for me to stress, that advice from men as well, giving you nutrition advice to a female is detrimental, because females and men are completely different. And for females as well, if you mess up your diet, you can really do some serious damage, more so than men, to your hormones, which is in fact what I did. And that's why I promote my journey, and I actually share my journey with other women. It's very passionate for me because I made a big mistake. So if I can at least raise awareness of that mistake to other women and maybe stop one other woman from making the same mistake I did, then that would be worthwhile to me.
Right, good. Well, we're very, you know, we're very glad, and we're honored almost, not almost, we are honored, Zoe, to have you on, and for giving your time and putting in the effort, because it is a very important message to share. And I think you just raised a very, even before we get to the hormone part, I think you raised a very important point about, and this applies to anybody not just necessarily looking to go into the competitive bodybuilding industry, but even just starting out their own fitness journey, be it just a bit of personal exercise and whatnot, is that, like, yes, it's good to do your research and know what you're getting yourself into before you start, but also it is an intensely personal journey too. And like you said, no two bodies are the same. And I'm sure but on the competitive side of things, that is really elevated, because it is such at that level, it is so elite. Like, every gram of carbohydrate matters when it comes to stepping out on stage.
What are carbs?
Yeah. Well, exactly, but at the same time, so these bodies, so the body of a competitive bodybuilder is so finely tuned. The diet, the exercise, the program, everything that goes into it is so methodical, so precise, and yet no two people are going to be following the same program.
Exactly.
So but I think, that could apply to, you know, like I said, even to a wider general sense of fitness and exercise. Guys, like, do your research, ask around, but also you need to figure out what works for you.
Yeah,
otherwise
and you need to seek a professional as well, people that are experts in the industry, and not just people that have knowledge, but people that have experience of dealing with people as well, because you can get a degree, you can get all these certificates and things, but if you haven't practiced it, if you don't have this experience, so this is something that I found out the hard way as well. But it's been a very it's been a good lesson for me, and I appreciate the struggles in which I had to come through to get to where I am now. But I also appreciate what I have now because of that. So I'll go back to where I was, where I left off, and my friends advising me, because this is an important point that I wanted to raise to other people, in particular women. So for me, I was receiving this advice from my friends, from other competitors, and my friends were recommending, oh, Zoe, you should cut out all of the fat in your diet. Some friends were saying, cut out all of my fat. Some friends were saying, okay, from tomorrow, just drop your carbs, don't have any carbs at all. And at the time, it was 2017. That's when my fitness journey started in competing. So I was preparing to go to China. So I went to Xiamen. I know I'll probably get laughed at from my pronunciation of Chinese. But I went to Xiamen in 2017. And before this, I went with a posing coach. So really, really good posing coach here. She's called Jackie Tan. And it was actually Jackie. And it was actually Jackie that noticed some problems during my posing classes. So I had a collection of stubborn fat, and as well I can show you some pictures and show the audience signs to look out for as well. So I had some stubborn fat on the outside of my thighs, and she said, Zoe, I've got a feeling something's not right with your hormones. I think you need to go see a doctor. So I went to my doctor, and he took some blood tests, and they came back, and basically, due to me doing these extreme measures, cutting fat out of my diet, he said it was a combination of drastic change in lifestyle, drastic change in diet, and a lot of stress on the body, which raises your cortisol levels. So that's your stress hormone in your body. But basically, my ovaries completely stopped working. So they stopped producing estrogen and testosterone. So basically, at the age of, I was in my late 20s, my body tried to go into menopause already. And my fertility hormone was almost 0. So the doctor said, look, you need to make some serious changes to your lifestyle, to your diet. Otherwise, I mean, if I hadn't been to the doctor when I had, I would probably be in a situation where I'd have made myself infertile. And this is a common problem with bodybuilders nowadays as well. If you don't know what you're doing and you mess up your hormones and you don't get it fixed, then it can ruin your chances of having a family. So for me, I was fortunate that I discovered this issue at the time. It also caused so many problems for me. It triggered hypothyroidism as well. So I was on so much medication, late 20s, already taking medication that an older woman would have taken for a menopause. So the doctor tried naturally to bring my hormones back. But this is a common problem. And the thing is, with competing, you will always be in a situation where it will affect your hormones, because once your body reaches, I mean, for a female to get abs, we need to be below 15% body fat. And once your body fat drops that low, your menstrual cycle will automatically stop. So for me personally, last year I competed twice, and I think my menses, I didn't really have one at all. So it's only been this year, since lockdown, that obviously things regulate, because it takes 3 months for your hormones to regulate. So after your body has been through stress, and they say, so any stress in your life, whether it be work stress, relationship stress, your body will react 3 months after, when your hormones are affected. So for females, this is one big piece of advice as well, because there are so many fad diets out there. There's keto diets, there's saying don't have carbs, don't have this. There's lots of different diets. There's in the UK we have a meal replacement, so many meal replacement diets.
Yeah,
so like Slim Fast, and weight loss, Weight Watchers, and
big, it still is, of course.
Yeah, and I'm not discriminating towards keto diets, and keto diets have worked really well for me. So, but you have to really know what you're doing, and you can't just experiment by trying these drastic diets, such as Weight Watchers or taking meal replacement shakes and whatnot, because it's going to have such a detrimental effect on your body and your hormones. So for me, by removing the healthy fat in my diet as well, healthy fats are the ones that promote and regulate your hormone production. So by removing that, theoretically, you're stopping that action. So that's why a lot of females, after competition, for me, I go straight onto a high fat diet after all of my competitions, to try and bring back my hormone production, try and bring back all my menses and things like that. So that's what I do personally. So by this time, I had all these issues. I was on so much medication. Like, my medication alone was up to 1,000 ringgit per month. This is how much medication. And this was because I listened to too many people and tried to take on everybody's piece of advice and test basically I was my own guinea pig. So I didn't have a coach at the time. And I couldn't really afford a coach for a long time. So I decided that, because I had these issues, and I decided that obviously it was my own fault, I'd listened to these people, and I'd decided to experiment on myself, so that I would do a nutrition course. And that way I can learn about nutrition, and then I can apply that knowledge to myself. So this was 2 years ago now. So I took the Precision Nutrition course. It's a US-based course, and it's online. It's a really, really good course. I would recommend that course to anybody that's interested in nutrition. It covers a lot of different aspects, not just it has powerlifting, bodybuilding, normal lifestyle, and healthy living and things like that. It's a really, really good course. So I did this course. So I learned how to track my calories, how to write my own nutrition programs, and I competed my first 4 competitions self-taught with no coach at all.
Wow.
Which is hard, and looking back, it wasn't the right thing to do. But at the time, financially, it was the best thing that I could have done at the moment. For me, having a coach has been the best thing that I have done in terms of competition, because even though you're knowledge yourself, when you're very depleted just before a competition, when your body's starved of carbs, when you're constantly hungry, your moods are affected, your hormones are affected, and you're not necessarily thinking as rationally as you should be thinking. So it's always good to have that support in the background. So somebody to tell you, okay, Zoe, today you're going to do this, this, and this. Zoe, you need to eat this. Zoe, you don't need to eat this. And that's basically what he does, and it's awesome.
It just removes a lot of like the mental, like you say, it takes away a lot of the mental baggage that you have to carry with you, and just all you have to do. Well, obviously not all you have to do, but you just show up with your game face on and just do what he says. You don't have to think about that yourself. Very quick question. I know we'll get to the rest of the end, but a very quick one while we're on the topic.
Yeah, sure.
Eva Chow is asking, can we share the name of the course again? That was the
the course was Precision Nutrition. I did the Precision Nutrition. So I can share the details with Eva. So I know Eva, she's one of my close friends, also a competitor. But it's a very good course to do. It's a very difficult course. I hadn't it links a lot to biochemistry. Precision nutrition. Biochemistry, I hadn't done any kind of science in school, so it was very new to me again. It was very challenging. But for me, I don't think anything good ever comes easy. So it was a good challenge for me, and I'm so glad that I did the course.
It's worth pointing out as well, you were still obviously full-time teaching at this point, right?
Yeah. So it's been a big juggle for me, and again, with having a coach there, it's given me so much time because for me, I rely on my job to obviously support myself, to support funding, competing. Anybody that competes for money is in the wrong sport, because it costs you so much money, and it is called a luxury sport, because it is very, very expensive. And for most parts, I fund the most parts of my competition myself completely, working 2 jobs. So I would teach full-time Monday to Friday, do private tuition on the weekends, just to be able to compete internationally. And the sacrifices I would make are things like, I remember last year when I was training to go to the UK. So there was a competition, the first time ever in my city in the UK. So it would be maybe one of the only opportunities that my family and my friends would get to see me on the stage. So it was very sentimental for me, and I purchased an exercise bike, and I decided it would be a good idea to wake up at 4 a.m. every morning and do fasted cardio before I do a full day at work, and then I'd go and do weight training in the evening, and completely burnt myself out. And luckily, having a coach is somebody there to guide you. And I still do my cardio, but for us, it's about balance. And for me, I need to give my job 100%, just as I need to give competing 100%. So it's finding that balance and the juggle between them to enable you to do both at 100%, to enable you to give each one the most that you can give them. And it's been a lot easier since I had a coach. It's been the hardest thing that I have ever done competing, but also the best thing that I've done as well, because the moment you step on stage, like everything you've worked for, all those times where you've cried, you've had breakdowns, and everybody has breakdowns regularly close to competition. It's just a normal thing. And I think my coach is used to receiving calls from me in tears, and yes, but once you're on the stage, and once you do well, and once you've not necessarily doing well, because each time it's like a very personal journey. So each competition you do, you become better yourself mentally and physically. So it's a personal journey. Like, you can't compare yourself to another competitor, because you will never be another competitor, and everybody goes through a different journey. But the sacrifices you have to make are absolutely crazy. I mean, when I did my last competition, which was December, I had a coach for 8 weeks. 8 weeks prior to my competition, so I'd already started cutting down and decided, okay, I'm financially secure enough, I will get a coach, I will do things properly this time. And yeah, is hard. I mean, you have to sleep early every day. So whilst your friends are out partying, you're sleeping at 9:30 because you need to get up at 5 a.m. for work. For me, my work is around 45 kilometers away, so I have to travel very, very early in the morning to get to work. So it's very important for me to sleep early, because sleeping is such a big part as well for recovery and for weight loss. Because if you don't get enough sleep, so recommended sleep time is between 7 and 9 hours. You can actually retain fat. You can actually gain weight by not sleeping. So it's so important to get sleep. So I made the decision to stop drinking completely. So I stopped drinking alcohol. I stopped going out. I skipped birthdays. I skipped parties. And that's very hard as well, because you find out who your true friends are and who is there for you in this time, because it's not easy, and people need to be aware of this before they start getting themselves into this sport, that it's all or nothing. You can't do it 50%. And there's times where, and when I'm cutting, I usually cut for around 4 months at a time. And in those 4 months, I will not eat in a restaurant. So my friends are quite used to me bringing my meals and sitting in their car and eating, walking and eating, bringing them into the restaurant whilst they're eating a nice meal, and I'll eat my cold food in the restaurant. So you learn to eat for function, and you learn to, whenever you're hungry, that's no matter where you are, you're gonna eat. So it's been a big sacrifice, but it's also been, you achieve something that you never think that you're able to achieve. And you never, like, if you would have told me 5 years ago, Zoe, you're gonna compete in a bodybuilding category, you're gonna become champion in China, I would have laughed in your face, because I ate sugar every single day. And I love sugar. Sugar is my kryptonite. And so it's like, it still surprises and amazes me now of what we are capable of. And competing never gets easier. It's just your understanding of your body, and you learn to you understand the journey that you go through. So you kind of you know what to expect more. That would probably be my point that I'm saying. So you know what to expect, and each time you compete, you always push yourself that little bit more, because you know what your body is able to do. So you push yourself further and further and further. So, and for my last competition, I lost more than 18 kg, which was a massive, massive drop. So
I can't imagine there was anything left of you. 18 kilos. That's like, I mean, I think I weigh about 70 at the minute. 18 kilo. That's like a 20% of my body weight. For goodness, that's
Yeah.
insane.
For me, I'm my body composition is endomorph, so I can gain weight very quickly. I only need to look at a carb, and I've already gained a kg. So for me, the gaining weight is not a problem, but the losing weight is a big problem for me. I find it very, very, very difficult to lose the weight. So I did a bulk last year after my competition in the UK. I wanted to build some more shoulders. I wanted to build some, so building muscle, obviously you have to go into a calorie surplus. You have to gain weight. It's just how much fat you're gaining when you're gaining weight. So this is why people tend to do lean bulking. So their progression of gaining fat is slower than somebody who does dirty bulking, as we call it, where they're eating a lot of processed food and fast food and things like that. So I mean, each individual is different, and each individual has their own protocol. So it's different for each person. So I had done a bulk, I had gained a significant amount of weight. I probably never ever want to be that weight again, because I just felt horrible, and I couldn't fit into any of my clothes. And yeah, and then I lost 18 kg. So it's like a diary to yourself. So we know it's like there's always trial and error, and we always do so after each comp, me and my coach will sit down, or I will write down what has worked well, what hasn't worked well. So we always keep a diary. We always keep tracks of things that I like to do, things that have worked well, things that haven't worked well. And there's always assessment. You're always assessing yourself constantly to determine what we need to improve in the future, where your areas of strength are, where your areas of weaknesses are. So in this industry, you have to be so critical of yourself. You can't be very sensitive to judgment, because you're getting judged and you're judging yourself all the time. So you have to take this constructive criticism on the chin, and it's just feedback. So
it's like actually an interesting relationship you point out between like the fact that you're being judged, like that's the nature of the industry. The very nature by definition of the industry is to be judged and on stage, but that means you can't overdo it yourself. You have to do it to yourself in a very different way, in a very constructive way, as you just pointed out. I think it's amazing just because of the limits that you are pushing, like both physically and mentally. Like bodybuilding in its purest definition, I guess, is transformation, physically and mentally, right? And just like the relationship that you form with yourself, with your body, with your physical and mental self, and how you are, and it's such like we said earlier, like it's such a delicate fight. It's such a sweet science, such a delicate, finely tuned art of body composition and progression and building, and the mental side of it too, working around the breakdowns and everything. And I'm sure, like as you said, you keep pushing yourself every competition a little bit more, and I'm sure the breakdowns don't get easier, but you at least know that they're coming, so you know what to expect around competition times. So I think it's just it fascinates me. It really does. And I think it's an incredibly impressive pursuit, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think the people that stick around you as well, you realize that you have some, I'm so blessed to have some absolutely amazing people around me. I mean, I have one of my best friends. She completely, she doesn't compete, but she understands exactly what I go through. If I'm in a mood, she will say, "Come on, let's go get a coffee." She knows not to invite me for a dinner when I'm on competition prep. It's just that support. Like, never take the support for granted, because that support is so valued, and I appreciate every single person that I've come across, or other athletes as well, and you learn their stories and you can discuss your journeys with them as well. I've met some amazing athletes, I've met some amazing coaches, just some amazing people. I feel very, very fortunate to be in this kind of industry as well, because when I first started competing, I really found my purpose in life. I feel like, and when I'm training, when I'm in the gym, when I'm surrounded by these athletes, I feel like this is my belonging. This is what I'm supposed to do. So I really, really have a passion for it.
Beautiful. I'm sure. I think anyone you'd have to go to the lengths that you do to pursue it. So
yeah.
I think it's a beautiful story. And we have about 10 minutes left, Zoe, by the way. So we're going to leave a couple of minutes at the end open for questions, because we've got a couple of good ones from Forrest is tuning in and he wants to know a couple of things. But we'll get to that at the end. But I know you have something to share with us on the
I've got some
slides to share, which I know is very, very important to you.
Have got. Let's see if I can share.
Meanwhile, shout out to best friend Darth Sally. You're absolutely right.
Share. It's share's not working, unfortunately. Let me try again.
It was working just now.
Yeah, I know.
Excuse us.
Internet glitches.
Minor technical difficulties. Please stand by.
Always technical issues. This is the joys of being a teacher.
Especially, by the way, to everyone watching at home, we practiced this just before the call, and everything worked absolutely fine. But typical technology. Here we go. As soon as you want something to work, it doesn't. But that's us. No, hang on. Now we're kind of looking at ourselves.
Did I click on the wrong one? Is it this one?
Yeah, let's try that again. Please stand by. What's that? No, that's still us.
Okay. Let me try again.
Here we go. This looks more no. See, I can just I can still see the room that we're in.
Okay. Let's just go on to questions. I can always upload
as soon as we want to share it around.
I can always upload the information. So I do have some slides on hormone imbalance. So I can just discuss them actually. So it's no problem. So I did prepare some slides on hormone imbalance. Obviously, I've been infected with hormone imbalance, but hormone imbalances don't have to be lack of hormones. They can be excessive hormones as well, of one hormone or both hormones. It also, so I've got some slides. So if you do want me to forward you the slides, you can always leave your details. You can always send me a DM on Instagram as well. I'm more than happy to share them with you. But the slides feature the regulation of hormones as well, because hormones are used for so many different things. They're used to regulate mood and stress, our sleep cycles, our body temperatures, reproductive cycles, everything, even appetite. And so like I mentioned, hormone imbalances occur when there's excessive or too little hormones in the bloodstream. Okay, so both men and women can suffer from hormone imbalance. Okay, and then the symptoms of hormone imbalance are things like a sudden weight loss or weight gain, puffy face, sleep problems, skin issues, so like dry skin or rashes. It says here depression. So for me, when I went to the doctor, I definitely noticed a lot of mood swings. Like 1 minute I was completely fine, and I've never ever suffered from mood swings before. But at this time, I was 1 minute I was happy, and then the next minute I wanted to kill somebody. So my mood was definitely a little unpredictable. So this was definitely one of the signs of hormone imbalance. Thinning hair as well is a big one. Headaches, bloating, as in particular for females. So there's a lot of signs of hormone imbalance, and we can develop it even for things like pregnancy, childbirth, menopause, puberty, all of these things. So even natural occurrences in our body can trigger hormone imbalances. Okay, so we suggest things like regular exercise. Even I try and incorporate things like evening primrose oil, so vitamins into my daily nutrition plan as well to regulate these kind of things. Obviously, good personal hygiene, managing your stress levels, making sure you're not stressed out. So for me as well, because my job is demanding, my hobby is full time, that's demanding as well. So I deal with very high stress levels. So for me, I've made it a priority to incorporate some me time into, even if it's just a few minutes a day as well. And one day a week, I will spend some alone time. I will relax myself, especially mentally as well. I'll just give myself a break. And I think that is so important to give yourself that well-deserved me time, because I know most of us don't utilize that time.
True. And I think that's the lockdown period's been pretty good for that for a lot of people. You know, a lot of people have realized just how fast-paced and forward-moving and hectic and everything else like the day-to-day lives are without really realizing it. But now that we've had this quiet time forced upon us almost, but a lot of people have actually it's a good time for reflection and recalibration.
Yeah, and I think it's good to remain positive. It's good to reconnect with people and keep that positive mindset right now, because negativity will consume you if you allow it. So it's good to keep a routine, stay active, make sure you are eating well. So for me as well, when I say eat well, I think it's important to encourage the readers. So to not think about foods in terms of good foods and bad foods. It's got to be about balance, and it's just being about just being mindful of what you eat. So obviously reducing your sugar. We are less active now at home, so bring your sugar level, bring the amount of sugar that you're eating down. Sugar is like a drug, and the more of it you consume, the more of it we crave. And I'm probably sugar is my biggest kryptonite. And I found the best way of dealing with that is to reduce my sugar intake, and then it helps to reduce the cravings as well.
Yeah, sugar is I mean, I'm type 1 diabetic actually, so sugar is but before I was diagnosed, I was pouring packets of sugar down my throat. I had the biggest sweet tooth, you know, and all of a sudden someone told me that no, you can't do that anymore, and I had to go cold turkey. It was like giving up.
So how do you deal with it?
I legit had to go effectively cold turkey for I just had to ban myself for all sweets and whatever else for a few weeks, and then just
but I think after the first 3-4 weeks, I think your body adjusts. And then for me, I'm the same. So last year, I think I went around, it was a long time, about 10 months with 0 sugar. I'm talking refined sugar. So there's a difference between natural sugars, obviously occurring in fruits and things, and then refined sugars like in ice cream and cakes. So I went about 10 months with 0 sugar, and it was the best thing that I've done to myself, because I did not crave sugar at all. Burgers, pizzas, yes, but not sugar.
Yeah, all of it, all of the dirty carbs that you mentioned, the dirty bulking. Yeah, so I'm much more mindful about those and what I eat now. I mean, I'm insulin dependent, which means I technically can still eat. Well, I just have to adjust my dosing, but it's better for me generally to just avoid really sugary and carby foods, much to my disappointment and dismay, because I love them.
But I think it's good, especially as a competitor as well, to educate yourselves on foods. And it's good to build up your rapport again with food after your competition, because you've been restricted from eating certain foods for so long that sometimes it can go in the opposite effect, and it can also trigger things like disordered eating and things like that. So this is very, very common in the bodybuilding industry, because you're depriving your body of something for so long. When you do have it, you're going to have it in excess, or people end up with eating disorders such as anorexia or bulimia. So it's important to balance it. If you are craving something, have that something, but just small amounts of it.
What something you said earlier when you were talking about when you were sort of diagnosed with these issues, and when you found out you had them, you mentioned that the body takes 3 months to react to like periods of or episodes of extreme stress or what have you. But when you went to the doctor and he ran these tests and he was like, this is a result of drastic lifestyle changes, nutrition changes, over how long had that been? Was that like the 3-month period? Like how long had it taken you on this crash?
If I look back, I probably showed signs of hormone imbalance for many years. But I think the doctor said to me, my case was quite extreme with my body trying to go into menopause, and he did say that it was a combination. It could be hereditary, it could be in my genes, it could be passed down from my family, but also lifestyle does play such a big part, and I had triggered it at that moment with something I had done with a change in my lifestyle or change in my diet. That is the one thing that triggered it. So hormone imbalance, you might not ever show major signs of hormone imbalance, but at that time I had done something to trigger it, and I was showing like pretty bad symptoms of it. And it should. I have, especially my competition pictures last year in April when I competed in the UK, I was still self-coaching myself, and I was very, very lean. But I barely posted any of my stage pictures, because as soon as I got them back, I literally sat and cried, because I must have affected my hormones prior to stage, and you can see the stubborn fat on the outside of my thighs, and I just wasn't happy, and I took some time out. I took a big recovery period last year. I went back on medication, I rectified things, and I used my diet as well to help control my hormone imbalance. So I do keep my carbs lower. So keeping my carbs lower means that I can increase my healthy fats in my diet. So I do things like carb cycling, where I go on low carbs, which means that my protein and my fat are significantly higher. And then when I feel like I need to refeed, or if I'm on a comp prep, my coach will tell me when to refeed, and then we'll go on a higher carb day. So then you replenish your carbohydrates.
Okay, that's good. And so, as you pointed out, it is imperative to get the right and proper professional guidance and advice, because
always seek people that have professional knowledge. Always, yeah.
Surround yourself, and this is maybe a good rule for life. Just surround yourself with people who know more than you do, and learn from them. You know. Because not only do they have like the expert, of course, the expert advice and insights and everything in the first place, but they also take that weight off you. So it's like a win. You win twice. It saves you the work, and they already know exactly what to do for you. So I think we've got time for one last question, so if you don't mind. And this is from Forrest. Forrest wants to know if you are joining in competitions this year once the lockdown is lifted.
When is the lockdown going to be lifted? This is the question. I think it's important not to make any short-term plans right now in terms of competing. For me, everybody who knows me, I'm all or nothing. And with competing, they are so expensive, and I've spent up to 10,000 ringgit attending competitions. You factor in travel costs, accommodation costs. Just to join an IFBB show, you're looking at 1,000 ringgit plus, just to join the show. And then you have bikini costs, you have shoes costs. So for me, I need to really plan. I need to plan these competitions in advance. I would like to say my next comp would be the end of the year, but I need to look at if the competitions are still scheduled, because I know that a lot of scheduled competitions have pushed them back due to the coronavirus.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we're unlikely to see many big events taking place for a while. Travel, of course, has taken a hit. So it's not so much whether Zoe might be joining any competitions, it's whether there'll be any competitions for Zoe to join.
Exactly.
So So I think that we can wrap it up there, Zoe. I think we've just gone over the hour mark, so I think this seems a good time to. Unless had you finished with your hormone with the hormone stuff?
Yeah, I'm good. Like I said, obviously we're having some issues with sharing things. If anybody does want any further information, I can share the slides. I can share some progress pictures as well on my Instagram, so you can follow down here. But yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in, for joining me. It really does mean a lot to me, especially now we're in lockdown and there's so many other things that we could be watching, like Tiger King right now. So I'm appreciating everybody that's logged in to come and talk to me today as well.
Everyone binge watched Tiger King in like 2 days, it seemed. You know, everyone got through that straight away. But no, so we really appreciate you coming and sharing your insights, and it's a really actually very inspirational story, and we really appreciate you being so candid and so honest and so and sharing such important knowledge, because I think it perhaps, you know, it might be overlooked by the people in the industry, you know, who might want to focus on just the glamorous side of, you know, getting shredded on stage, you know, but it's actually very
important. People always talk about the pros and about succeeding and things like that, but I think it's very important to share your journey, about your progress and the things, because people don't just succeed. You have to fail. You have to fall to get up and to move forward, to strengthen yourself, to improve as well. So that part of the process is equally as important.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, and it's for everyone out there watching, it's very much worth remembering that. I think that's a great lesson to end on. I think that's a great way to wrap this up. So Zoe, we'll say thank you again very much for joining us and taking the time out of your I mean, I know we're on lockdown, but still, I know you have a lot to be getting on with yourself at home too. So thank you for spending this time with us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's been great. And look, well, now that there seems to be some light at the end of the tunnel, so hopefully we can start getting back to some idea of normality soon.
I hope so as well.
And you know,
I'm looking forward to seeing all my friends and getting back to the gym.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Both a big thumbs up from me. Thank you very much, Zoe. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, stay in touch. Stay well.
Take care. For now. Stay safe, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Well, that was the wonderful Zoe Leigh, and what an interesting and informative and inspiring talk that was, like sharing us the pros and the cons behind the life as a competitive bodybuilder athlete. So that's all for our first session of the day. We will be back at 3 p.m. welcoming Jonathan Queck of the Owners Circle to talk to us about how to pivot and survive in a commercial sense for your business during these troubled times. So we look forward to Jonathan's insights and expertise at 3 p.m. I'll be back then. Do join me. Until then, go grab some lunch, and I'll see you soon. Thank you very much.